The Book of Revelation, its hidden secrets, revealed, Part 2, by Dr. Lisa Love. Section 3, Three Trees and the Red Dragon, the basic story. Chapters 10 through 12. The 6 trumpets have sounded. Now St. John says another angel comes down from heaven. This one is in a cloud and has a rainbow over its head. Its face is like the sun, and its legs are like 2 pillars of fire. It sets its right foot in the sea and its left foot on the land. The angel also has a small scroll in its hand and tells St. John to eat it. As St. John eats the scroll, it tastes sweet in his mouth, but bitter in his stomach. Now the 7th trumpet is finally sounded. Next, St. John is told to measure the altar of God, though he is informed that nations will trample on the courtyard outside the altar for 42 months, or 3.5 years. Around the altar are 2 olive trees with a lampstand. They prophesy for 1,260 days, just short of 3.5 years. If anyone tries to harm them, they pour fire from their mouths, killing their foes. Still, a beast does manage to kill them. Their dead bodies lie in the streets for 3.5 days. Then they come back to life. Their foes die. A great earthquake happens. 1/10 of the city falls. 7,000 people are killed. After this, a celestial virgin appears, clothed in the sun, with 12 stars as her crown and with the moon under her feet. She is giving birth to a male child who will rule the nations with a rod of iron. Then a red dragon appears with 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 diadems on its heads. With its tail, it sweeps down 1/3 of all stars in heaven and casts them down to earth. Then the dragon tries to kill the celestial virgin and her child. The child is saved by being taken up into the throne room. The woman flees to the wilderness in a place prepared by God, where she is nourished for 1,260 days, or 3.5 years. Now, a war takes place in heaven. The archangel Michael and his angels fight the dragon and throw it back down to earth. The dragon, in anger, pursues the celestial virgin and her child. Because they have been hidden, it cannot find them, so it tries to kill her with a flood of water pouring out of its mouth. But the earth swallows up the river and keeps it from reaching them. Angry, the dragon decides to make war on all the other offspring of the celestial virgin living on the earth. Part 3, the traditional Christian view. Not much is said or understood about the scroll that St. John eats, outside of mention that Ezekiel in the Old Testament also put a scroll in his mouth. As for the trees, they often are associated with the biblical prophets Elijah and Enoch, but no one really knows who these trees are. Some simply say they are the Holy Spirit. And not much comment is made on the temple and its altar besides the fact that they exist. As for the celestial virgin, she is the Christian church. The 12 stars above her head are again the 12 tribes of Israel. The male child is yet another reference to Jesus, who will rule all nations with a rod of iron. The red dragon represents those who oppose Jesus and his church, or Satan. The archangel Michael and his angels cannot kill the dragon because only the Lamb, who is also Jesus, can kill the dragon. Section 3, Revealed. As we have already seen, the first scroll that St. John was given in the throne room stood for the 7 centers when they were sealed. So why a second small scroll that St. John had to put in his mouth? Well, in the ancient secret lore, this small scroll referred to a minor chakra known as the Alta Major Center. This Alta Major Center is connected to the medulla oblongata, also known in yoga as the mouth of God. Here, the Holy Spirit or pranic energy enters the body. Once this minor center is opened, it tastes sweet to the mouth, to our spiritual nature, but bitter to the stomach, to our selfish personality. The Alta Major Center and the medulla oblongata or brainstem are also connected to the functions of wakefulness and sleep in the body. Notice how in the story the 2 trees die and resurrect. One of the tasks of the yogi is learning how to consciously do this. This is done by building the rainbow bridge or the antakarana so that continuity of consciousness is achieved. As one learns to consciously go in and out of the highest stages of samadhi, that person is able to stop one's breathing and heartbeat at will, seemingly dying and then coming back to life. As the yogi learns to put the scroll in his mouth or build the antakarana, the yogi is able to enter the throne room without going to sleep. The yogi will also avoid entering the throne room in a trance-like state or by trying to take it by force through the use of drugs. As the ability to go in and out of the throne room stabilizes by reaching advanced levels of samadhi, the yogi remains in the throne room, the higher head centers, 24/7, both while asleep and awake. As for the altar St. John must build, it refers to the base of the spine or Muladhara center. The altar also represents the pelvic area of the body where the coccyx or tailbone is. The coccyx or tailbone has 3 to 4 or 3.5 bones within it. 3.5 also represents the world egg that has a serpent coiled 3.5 times around it. This same serpent is found within the coccyx region. 3.5 also relates to pi, 3.14 rounded up. If the diameter of a circle is 7 and its circumference is 22, the number of chapters in the book of Revelation, then this 22/7 coefficient equals pi. Pi is a never-ending number, and here it is meant to represent going into infinite consciousness. Finally, 3 refers to 3 states of consciousness: waking, sleeping, and dreaming. Plus there is a half state where we are neither awake or asleep, known as samadhi. Which leads us to the 3 trees talked about in Revelation, the tree of life and the 2 olive trees. In the yoga system, there are 3 channels or trees in the human etheric body: a central channel known as Sushumna, the tree of life, and 2 side channels known as Ida and Pingala. Ideally, these 2 side channels flow back and forth through the central channel in a healthy way. But if purifications have not been made, then it will not go up the central channel or tree of life. Instead, the 2 side trees will flow in an erratic way, causing division instead of unity, becoming the tree of good and the tree of evil. These 3 trees are also linked to the human nervous system. The central nervous system is essentially the tree of life. The peripheral nervous system is the tree of good and evil that is divided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic side channels. Again, we need to keep the energy flowing up the central channel and move it into the brain in a healthy way. Then we can live healthy, loving, and intelligent lives. If we can't, then our health, intelligence, and capacity to love are disrupted. After the altar is built in the base of the spine and the two trees give warnings not to go into the side channels, the small scroll is eaten. The seventh trumpet sounds. If we have not prepared ourselves, unpurified contents spill out. Our selfish natures will now dominate, causing the earth and our inner and outer worlds to suffer. Now God's temple in heaven opens, and the Ark of the Covenant is seen. It is time to destroy the destroyers of our earth. As the Ark of the Covenant opens, it alerts a dragon resting quietly in its cave. In the east, this dragon is a serpent resting on top of the altar in the base of the spine or Muladhara center. This serpent feeds the body with its energy and is known by the name of Kundalini, a word that means annular or cyclic. When the time is right, this Kundalini energy wakes up, moves up the spine, and expands the consciousness for better or worse. In Western traditions, as in St. John's story, the snake is turned into a dragon, usually red in color. Interestingly enough, in the medical field we see both the snake as side channels and the dragon with its wings as a central channel combined. If our bodies are pure, all will go well when the dragon wakes up and leaves its cave, sending the celestial virgin and child to heaven. But if impurities exist, the side channels will not be awakened properly, and the dragon will separate the celestial virgin from her child. The 7 stars will be split into 2, 3.5 on each side, and the tree of good and evil will be activated. Now we have intelligence, the celestial virgin, divorced from Christ-like love, her child. The world then becomes a desert. Though we are intelligent enough to use the resources of the celestial virgin to our benefit, Christ's consciousness or love will be kept in heaven, leading to abuse and destruction. These 3 trees in this process of awakening the Kundalini is also represented in the Kabbalah, taken from the Zohar book that Jesus was most likely exposed to while in Egypt. So when is it time for this dragon to wake up? To understand this, we need to look at the constellation known as Draco, the dragon, which rests inside our celestial North Pole and is the source of cosmic Kundalini for our Earth. Draco the dragon, like the dragon in Revelation, has a crown found in the constellation of Corona Borealis, corona means crown, that has 7 stars, diadems on it. As Draco rotates in the heavens, certain of the stars and the constellations around it line up with our Earth's North Pole. Presently, our Earth's North Pole points to Polaris, known by the ancients as the throne of God. At the time of St. John, 0, starting the age of Pisces, the pole star was shifting from Thuban to Polaris, which finally lined up with the celestial equator around 2000 AD. In 4000 AD, Eri, aka Gamma Cephei, in Cepheus, the constellation of the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, will become the pole star, followed by Alduramin in Cepheus around 6000 AD. So we are seeing that the dragon, Kundalini, leaves the base of the spine center on a planetary level when our planet shifts where its pole star points. The shifting of the pole star from star to star also corresponds to something known as the precession of the equinoxes. In short, the Earth takes just over 24,000 years to complete one large rotation through the 12 zodiacal signs. So here you see the celestial equator, which is the Earth's vertical axis, and Draco the dragon would be in the middle of that. And then the Earth's horizontal axis is the 12 zodiacal signs, taking approximately 2,000 years to go through one zodiac constellation. And every time it shifts from one zodiac sign to the next, a new coming of the Christ occurs, bringing a new spiritual paradigm into our world. The shifting of these zodiacal ages and the new spiritual teachings associated with them was well documented in the Bible. Taurus the bull. Around 6000 BCE, people were worshiping the bull and the golden calf. Mother Earth, as Hathor in Egypt or the Holy Cow in India, was worshipped along with a multitude of nature spirits. Aries the ram. But around 4000 BCE, the earth shifted towards Aries the ram. Spiritual leaders like Moses taught people to now worship the ram and no longer bow down to the idol of the golden calf. The new spiritual dispensation became less animistic and more mythic. Specific gods and goddesses who often personified nature and had human-like attributes were worshipped instead. Humans then competed to see whose god or goddess was the best, and human and animal sacrifices were made to these gods and goddesses in order to win their favor and blessing. Pisces the fish. But at the time of St. John, around 0 or 2,000 years ago, the message changed. We were no longer supposed to worship various gods and fight over whose god or goddess was best. Instead, Jesus came and fed the masses with the miraculous teaching of the two fishes of Pisces and the loaves of its opposite sign of Virgo. Part of that teaching meant there was no longer a need to sacrifice people and animals, as Jesus was now standing in as the last sacrifice who spilt his blood to atone for all our sins. That freed people up to become more loving and compassionate to each other. He also taught people to look for God within. Since Virgo is the opposite sign from Pisces, it makes sense then that Virgo is the celestial virgin featured in Revelation. The celestial virgin wears the sun as her clothes, has 12 stars as her crown, and has the moon at her feet. For starters, the 12 stars refer to the 12 sets of stars that make up the zodiac constellation that act as her crown. And Virgo is clothed by the sun when the earth has moved near Pisces, starting just over 2,000 years ago. We also see how the moon next to the earth would be underneath Virgo's feet. When Virgo is dominant in the sky, it appears as if 1/3 of the stars in heaven are above the horizon, with only the tail of Draco, the dragon, visible. So here is Draco, again representing the celestial North Pole. And here is the dragon's tail above the Earth's horizon in the black area, with 2/3 of the stars seemingly lying below the horizon in green. Section 4, The Beast and False Prophet, the basic story. Chapters 13 to 16. Sadly, despite all the efforts to get humankind to spiritualize itself and enter the throne room as part of the 144,000, humans have not changed. Now, a beast rises from the sea with 10 horns, 7 heads, 10 diadems on its horns, and a blasphemous name on its heads. The beast looks like a leopard, with feet like a bear and a lion's mouth. It has a mortal wound that was healed. The beast is haughty and blasphemous and makes war on the saints. Enthralled by the beast, most of the 1/3 of humans that are left after all the plagues and disasters worship the beast for 42 months. or 3.5 years. Then another beast, a false prophet, appears, with 2 horns like a lamb's, who talks like a dragon. It exercises authority over the beast, works great signs like fire coming down from heaven, and deceives everyone on earth by telling them to do the beast bidding. The false prophet makes images of the beast for everyone to worship. If they do not worship the beast, the false prophet has them slain. And those who follow the beast get marked with the number 666 on their right hand or forehead. Then the Lamb, the 144,000, and the man whose voice was like many waters sing praise to the Alpha and Omega on the throne. Next, the Son of Man asks angels with sickles to again appear to reap from the earth, kill through plagues, all those who had not become one of the 144,000 and are now following the beast. Now 7 angels again appear, this time pouring out bowls full of even more plagues on the earth. Foul and evil sores come upon men who have the mark of the beast. All living things in the sea die. All waters everywhere turn to blood. Everyone is scorched with fire. Those who worship the beast fall into darkness. The Euphrates is dried up, and foul spirits like a frog come out of the mouth of the dragon beast and false prophet. Lightning, thunder, and an earthquake splits the great city of Babylon into pieces, and no mountains were any more to be found. Section 4, the beast and false prophet, the traditional Christian view. For traditional Christians, the beast is linked to 4 separate beasts found in the book of Daniel in the Christian Bible. These 4 beasts to them represent the empires Daniel predicted would emerge to try to crush Judaism and later Christianity: Babylon, Persia, Greece, with Rome being the mortal wound of the beast that was recovered when Christianity finally defeated Rome and ruled over it in the 300s Common Era. The beast, then, is anyone who is not a Christian or opposes their version of Christianity, though various Christian groups fight over which version of Christianity is the right one that should rule. Some Christian groups link the beast to Jezebel. A Phoenician princess, Jezebel worshipped Baal, a pagan god of fertility. She married King Ahab of the northern kingdom of Israel. Then she convinced him to convert Israelites to her pagan faith, mortally wounding the Jewish faith for a time. Later she was killed. The Jewish faith recovers the mortal wound the beast gave them, though it was the beast who had a mortal wound that was healed. So this interpretation does not make a lot of sense, because if we were accurate to what St. John says, Jezebel would have come back into power, not the Jews. By turning Jezebel into the beast, some Christian sects justify the need to keep patriarchy in power over women. The beast is also linked to women who are free with their sexuality, meaning to control the beast, men must control women's bodies, sexuality, and procreative abilities. As for the false prophet who gets everyone to worship the beast, they see him as someone who appears to be Christian, but who encourages people to be tolerant of other faiths and advocates a diversity of beliefs in the world. The false prophet also stands in the way of true Christians having worldwide political control, preventing true Christians from abolishing the separation of church and state, allowing true Christians to be the sole rulers on earth. Finally, the false prophet attempts to create a united nations and is trying to stop the genocidal worldwide Armageddon from happening that Jesus wants to occur. True Christians need this worldwide genocide of non-believers to happen so that they can bring Jesus Christ back to rule over the earth. Note, the verse actually says, "Sell your cloak to buy a sword," meaning value the ability to discern the truth as you cut through falsehoods with your sword more than you value keeping yourself clothed in your false views that prevent you from having Christ-like compassion and love. Section 4, Revealed. The first thing to notice is how the beast comes out of the sea. Water is associated with the sacral center, which in its beast-like inversion tends to overemphasize sex and pleasure. The sacral center also has 6 petals, which is why it is connected primarily to the beast. Water also symbolizes emotions, and when toxic emotions like hate, fear, lust, confusion, chaos, jealousy, and revenge are whipped up, they turn us into beast instead of into loving human beings. As for the 666, in the system of the chakras, the 666 refers to the 3 lower centers. These lower chakras represent money, pleasure, and power. If the circle of spirit is at the bottom, as seen in the number 6, these 3 qualities are not guided by spirit and are given free rein. Now, the 3 higher centers, the 999, where the circle of spirit is now at the top, as seen in the number 9, will no longer function well. That means the qualities of the 999 are diminished, such as love, tolerance, and compassion for others, the ability to listen to and discern truth from lies, and the capacity to be in touch with spiritual realities free from distortion. The idea of 666 being connected to the 3 lower chakras is also evident when we remember that the dragon comes out of the earth, the base of the spine. The beast comes out of the sea, the sacral center, and the false prophet brings down fire, connected to the solar plexus center, to enthrall those who follow him and the beast. The false prophet then represents the misuse of power associated with an impure solar plexus center. The false prophet uses lies and misdirection to look powerful by creating signs or miracles and to distract people from discerning the truth. Note, the object is still in this hand. The smoke capsule that was crushed was always in this hand. Once distracted, the false prophet can easily enslave and disempower people. To do this, the false prophet needs to first divide people up into them and us. Next, they get people to hate and fear the people they don't like. Then, they confuse people with a barrage of lies so people lose their swords and can't see the truth. People then follow signs versus symbols. Signs cause us to become illogical and superstitious. Lacking discernment, we read things on a superficial level only, like believing the number 13 has to mean you will have bad luck. Symbols require the use of the intuition associated with Christ consciousness. True intuition includes the ability to use logic and discernment, since it rules above the plane of mind, not below it as signs do. We also see the many layers of any sign, such as how 13 can be a sign for transformation, or even Jesus, if we add Jesus to his 12 disciples. People who follow signs are much more likely to enslave others or become enslaved as they give into fear and division. They may even start to treat others in a beastly way, as the false prophet tells them that some people need to be brutalized, denigrated, dehumanized, controlled, or even killed for their own good. Once love, compassion, and an attempt to understand people and help them, instead of dehumanize and brutalize them, are gone, the next thing the false prophet does is to give those other people a mark. Now their followers will act in a beastly way because they now have a simple sign showing them who to blame, control, mistreat, or even kill. Section 5, Babylon and the Man on a White Horse, the basic story. Chapters 17 to 20. Now another beast appears with 7 heads, representing 7 kings. 5 have fallen in the past, 2 will fall in the future. On the 7 heads are 10 horns, symbolizing 10 future kings that have not yet come into power. Sitting on top of the beast is the harlot of Babylon, wearing purple and scarlet, symbolizing her many fornications, abominations, blasphemies, and impurities. Those who worship the harlot and the beast make war on the Lamb, who will one day conquer them as the Lord of Lords and King of Kings. The harlot is now judged, and so is Babylon, the city she came from. Once a mighty city, Babylon is now a dwelling place of demons, a place where people are drunk and full of passion, a city full of those who have grown too rich with wealth, an abode where lust is rampant and fornication is the norm. As the city is judged, all its wealth is laid to waste within an hour. Then a mighty angel hurls a great stone at Babylon, and it is no more. With Babylon gone, a great multitude in heaven is heard, singing, Hallelujah! The celestial virgin reappears, clothed with fine linen, bright and pure, and marries the Lamb. All those who held true to the testimony of Jesus and worshipped God are invited to the wedding feast. Then heaven opens, and a man on a white horse appears, with a robe dipped in blood, who is the Word of God. On his thigh is inscribed the name King of Kings and Lord of Lords. An angel sends birds to eat the flesh of those who were killed. Seeing this, the beast and false prophet make war against the man on the white horse and his army, but they are defeated. Their bodies are thrown into a lake of fire, where birds gorge on their flesh as well. Then another angel appears, binds the dragon, and throws it into a pit for 1,000 years. Those who did not worship the beast and receive the mark go through the first resurrection and live with Christ for the next 1,000 years. But after the second 1,000 years, 2,000 years from the first time the dragon was set free, the dragon is set free again. This time the battle is not with Babylon, but against Gog and Magog, but they too are destroyed. After this second Armageddon-like battle around 2000 Common Era, Hades gives up all its dead. The dead gather where books are opened to see if their names are written in the book of life. If their names are not there, they go through a second death and are thrown into a lake of fire. Section 5. The traditional Christian view. The whore of Babylon, like Jezebel, is proof that Jesus wants us to put women in their place who are too free with their sexuality or try to put themselves above men. As for Babylon, many traditional Christians ignore the messages of Babylon, representing a city where the people within it, including their spiritual leaders, have gotten too wealthy. Instead, some Christian faiths believe wealthy Christians are proof of God having chosen or favored them, and see those in Babylon now made up of only those who don't believe as they do. With Babylon gone, the celestial virgin, or the Christian church, is now brought into heaven to marry the Lamb or Jesus. All true believers who have only followed Jesus and regularly taken communion can come to the wedding feast. As for the man on the white horse, he is Jesus. And like the Lamb, who represents Jesus making sacrifices for us, Jesus is now ready to take revenge on those who killed him. Essentially, he becomes a ruthless, genocidal warrior who with his armies will rid the world of all non-believers once and for all. For decades, Many Christians have even been looking forward to World War III or Armageddon. Some are even trying to make it happen and are buying up AK-47s so they can become righteous genocidal warriors fighting along with Jesus to save the world. As righteous warriors, they can finally have their names written in the Book of Life and live with Jesus Christ in heaven forevermore, making them even more excited to see World War III start. Section 5, Revealed. Here once again, we find a connection to the 7 centers or chakras, only this time they are associated to the Whore of Babylon. What are the 5 fallen kings? They're the 5 lower chakras that are no longer operating in a spiritual way. Instead of spiritualizing the lower chakras by learning to respect the feminine nature and our Mother Earth, people have turned women and our Earth into whores. As for the 2 kings that are about to fall, they represent the 2 higher head centers linked to spirit that will fall as well if we don't change our ways. And who is the celestial virgin that marries the Lamb? This marriage represents the hopes that enough people would have sacrificed the Lamb, the beliefs of the old Aryan dispensation, by 1,000 years Common Era. Here, at the midway point in the age of Pisces, where Virgo is emphasized at the second half of the Piscean dispensation, St. John hoped the teachings of the 2 fishes, Pisces, and loaves, Virgo, would finally have taken hold within the majority of the population. And in fact, that is exactly what happened. For example, wherever Christianity was accepted, we saw human and animal sacrifices to a variety of capricious, human-like gods and goddesses cease as they recognized that Jesus was the last sacrifice. Marrying themselves to the new teachings also explained why the one God came to replace the idea of many gods. Finally, that one God was increasingly no longer seen as a God of vengeance, but as a God full of Christ-like love for all. Then we would also see the man on the white horse appear. Incidentally, this man on a white horse looked a lot like Lord Kelki, one of 10 future kings who lives in Shambhala or heaven. Kelki in both Hinduism and Buddhism, where he is featured in the teachings of the Kali Chakra, is the coming avatar who comes at the close of a long period of destruction, bringing heaven back to earth. Because St. John expected the new Piscean dispensation to have taken hold by 1,000 Common Era, he anticipated that the dragon, Kundalini, would once again be thrown into the pit from whence it came, in the region of the base of the spine. And by 1,000 Common Era, this actually did occur, as the Christian faith and the teachings of Jesus became the dominant religion in the world. But Revelation doesn't stop at 1,000 CE. St. John says that after 1,000 more years, the dragon Kundalini would rise again, which takes us to about 2000 CE, our present era. So what will happen now? St. John closes Revelation by giving us some more clues. Section 6, the New Jerusalem, the basic story. Now a new heaven and earth come into being. The holy city, New Jerusalem, comes down from heaven as a bride ready for her husband. There God dwells among men. All tears are wiped from their eyes. Now there is no mourning or pain, as all things are made new. Within the New Jerusalem are 12 pearly gates, with 12 angels who are with the 12 tribes of Israel. The city has 12 foundations, with the 12 names of the apostles of the Lamb written upon them. The city also is made up of 144,000 cubits and 12,000 stadia, or around 1,500 miles. Its walls are built of jasper, with every jewel found on them. Within the walls there are no temples. The sun or moon do not need to shine, because the glory of God fills the city with light. The gates are never shut, and there is never any night. Nothing unclean enters, no abominations or falsehoods. Only those whose names are written in the book of life live there. St. John ends the book sending blessings to all who keep the words of the prophecy. And he warns people not to change what the book says. He states plainly that the time is near for the events in Revelation to begin, meaning at the time that he wrote the book of Revelation. And he encourages everyone to make sure they do what it takes in the coming years to do the spiritual practices needed so they have a right to access the tree of life. He also adds a most curious statement where he reminds us that this revelation came from Jesus, who claims he is the, quote, one root and offspring of David and, quote, the bright morning star. Section 6, the traditional Christian view. Traditional Christians believe the New Jerusalem will exist on earth and will be massive. See the dimensions above. Once Armageddon is over, the righteous, who were taken somewhere to be spared the horrors on earth, will be brought back down from heaven to live in the New Jerusalem. Within this cubed city, there will be no sun or moon above or around them. There they will live in eternal light, glorifying Jesus forever. Traditional Christians also ignore the fact that Jesus claims to be the bright morning star, a reference to Venus, the brightest star seen in the morning. They even go so far as to change St. John's words in modern-day Bibles to a shining star or something similar. Section 6, the New Jerusalem, revealed. For starters, the fact that the New Jerusalem, the place of peace, has no sun, moon, dark, and is always light, refers to the fact that once the Kundalini, the dragon, has flowed up the central Sushumna channel, the tree of life, it is no longer moved outward into the Ida, the moon, or Pingala, the sun channels that cause us to eat of the tree of good and evil. Instead, we are enlightened and bathed in eternal light. Though the traditional Christian idea of a massive city might seem absurd on the surface, it really is not. True, a city that goes 1,500 miles into space would exist way beyond where even the International Space Station flies, about 250 miles above the Earth. This kind of city would even go into the exosphere where rockets fly. But look at it carefully. As we enter the age of Aquarius, already we are traveling into space where the New Jerusalem is meant to take us. This ties into something Sri Yukteswar, an Indian sage, made clear in 1894 when he said that contrary to popular belief, we are no longer in the Kali Yuga, where ignorance and materialism reign. Instead, we have already moved into the Dwapara Yuga, ruled by the Leo-Aquarius axis. Now, Sri Yukteswar claims, humanity will learn to harness electricity, master space, and tap increasingly into the etheric network of life. Looked at carefully, it does seem that he is right, foreshadowing what will happen in the age of Aquarius we are entering into. In this Aquarian age, more and more people will become enlightened, represented by the measurement of 144,000 or the 144,000 points of the stars, centers, or chakras being opened. As more people increasingly enter the throne room, the 1,000 points of the crown center or chakra, they will access the 12. 12 and 12,000, which is 1,000 times 12, describe the New Jerusalem. This will put them in touch more consciously with the 12 zodiacal signs, the 12 creative hierarchies, allowing them to live an increasingly cosmic life. However, the Dwapara Yuga associated with the Age of Aquarius will not be free from problems. Unlike the Dark Age of the Kali Yuga, where information was very limited, information in the Aquarian Age will become so plentiful, people will need great discernment to sort it out. And the advances in science and technology may cause humans to emphasize too much the need to conquer outer space more than inner space. They may even start to believe that the solution to humanity's problems is out there on another planet somewhere. But even if we go to other planets, into outer space, or get lost in virtual worlds, it won't ultimately help us become better humans. If we don't master our centers and nadis and raise our consciousness, we will continue to be deluded regardless of whether we explore inner or outer worlds. And with Leo, the opposite sign of Aquarius, now clothed by the sun with the moon under its feet, as the new teachings of the Aquarian dispensation emerge, so will a new shadow. Instead of the dragon Kundalini chasing away the celestial virgin, Virgo, and turning our earth into a desert where the celestial virgin is sent to live, the dragon will now attack the things Leo stands for. So what does Leo stand for? On the higher side, Leo is crowned by spiritual values and uses power to serve and uplift the many, represented by Aquarius. On the lower side, Leo tries to take away power from the many, Aquarius. Then the etheric network that the masses have a right to, Aquarius again, is manipulated by them in order to become dictators over everything and everyone. On a positive note, the negative tendencies of the shadow side of the Age of Aquarius, represented by Leo, can be overcome. The true internet is always available to those who have access to the waves of the intuition that include mental discernment. That internet is only accessed by those who know, an Aquarian keynote, how to light up all 144,000 points of the 7 stars or centers on a 24/7 basis. That teaching is already being externalized to the masses who are seeking to realize the self by doing the necessary purification work. Once that self is realized, they will then spill out the spiritual realizations the Aquarian dispensation has given them, enlightening and healing our world as never before. Enjoy this video? Support this work. Help us write more books and do more videos. When you do, you will get copies of charts, books, and an inside look into our process and what's next. Become a patron at patreon.com/Soul to Spirit. Visit our website for more info. Enjoy this YouTube channel, subscribe, like, comment, share. Giving credit where it's due, this video was created and narrated by Dr. Lisa Love. Videos, music, and sound effects purchased for use from storyblocks.com. Many photos were purchased from 123rf.com. Other photos came from various places on the internet for the purpose of educational use. Thanks for watching.